Happy Canada Day, everyone, and welcome to this digital edition of NHL Now. Laura Gardner, EJ Raddick here with you, and we are pleased to be joined today by Sportsnet's lead draft analyst, Sam Cosentino. Now, Sam, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on your nation's holiday here.
Wow.
You're a very busy man, though, over the last few days, and to quote your article published on Saturday, if 2020 has told us anything, it is to expect the unexpected, and that's obviously exactly what unfolded in Friday night's draft lottery. Now, I personally thought the whole thing was great. It was very on brand with 2020, but now that you've had a few days to really let it marinate, what are your overall reactions to what went down?
From a PR perspective, a huge home run for the National Hockey League, okay? So you've got the draft lottery, now you've got the secondary phase of the lottery. We continue to build the credibility for what this draft class is, and it's a really good one, moving forward to the draft whenever that may be. So from that perspective, awesome. From Alexis Lafreniere's perspective, pretty cool too. What have you ever seen a first overall pick at the opportunity that he may very well have in front of him? I mean, goes to Chicago, Patrick Kane's his favorite player. He goes to Montreal, you got the hometown thing going on. He goes to Toronto, it's an original six thing going on. He goes to Pittsburgh, he plays against another Rimouski stud. The possibilities are endless for this young man. So maybe the biggest winner of the entire night was team placeholder and Alexis Lafreniere.
Well, first of all, Sam, again, happy Canada Day to you. I'm wearing red in honor of Canada Day and also in sympathy for the Detroit Red Wings, because obviously they didn't get the first pick in the draft as they were hoping to get. But let's face it, it's really obvious where he's going. It's going to be Arizona, right, Sam? I mean, they're going to lose in the playoff series, and then Taylor Hall will work his magic once again, and they will have the first pick. I mean, wouldn't that be crazy to think that Taylor Hall could be involved on a team that ended up with a sixth first overall pick?
That'd be insane. But there's a huge cloud of what's going on. By the way, thanks for wearing the red. You're looking great, EJ. I love it. Way to go. Thanks for doing that. But the crazy part of all that, and it's not completely inconceivable with what's happened here in 2020, is all the stuff that's gone on with Arizona, the allegations about the testing and so on and so forth. So say they go ahead and win this thing, and that has yet to be determined. I mean, that's going to be a huge thing. I remember you've got a new ownership group there, which they're very happy to be part of the National Hockey League. The National Hockey League's extremely happy to have what looks to be a stable ownership group now in place there. But man, oh man, there are some teams and scouts that I've talked to that are some hot with what's been alleged to have happened with Arizona. And you want to see hot? Wait to see if they get the first overall pick. But I do think, EJ, that probably has to be decided before the second phase, so that everybody kind of knows what's up with that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some conspiracy theorists out there, especially in light of everything that's gone down in the year that has been 2020, that would not be thrilled if Arizona lands that number one overall pick. Let's talk about the Ottawa Senators for a minute. The third and fifth overall picks now in this 2020 draft, which is great for them. As a Colorado Avalanche fan, I've seen firsthand what has happened with the Sens over the course of the last few years. So they deserve a bit of a break. Do you foresee them trading one of those picks away or mixing it up at all?
Well, the crazy part is there's still that one pick that hangs in the balance from the Pajot trade. And so that's lottery protected. So assuming the Islanders win, they're going to end up keeping that pick. But if not, and 12.5% chance, you still have that pick to lean on. So the way I look at it is their prospect base is unbelievable right now. They're deep in goal. I think about the back end with Brandstrom, Jacob Bernard, Docker, Lassie Thompson, who played over in Europe. I think about their forward group, Josh Norris. Oh my goodness, what a stud this guy's going to be. AHL Rookie of the Year. Drake Batherson, he's got time. Alex Formanton, he's got time. So they're really deep. Now, when I look at the 3 and 5 picks, they have the ability now to add assets at the two most coveted positions. Most likely at 3, they're going to get a center. Would it be Tim Stützle? Would it be Quentin Byfield? And then at 5, they're going to have the opportunity to go to a defenseman, and they're not going to have to go off the board there. So the two defensemen you'd be looking at, Jamie Drysdale and Jake Sanderson, are the two guys there. So I think that Pierre Dorian's done a brilliant job getting his team to this position. Yeah, you would have wanted Lafreniere, but they're still perfectly positioned to add 2 really good players at the most difficult positions to draft, at center and at D. They address the center at 3, the defenseman at 5.
All right, let me ask you about LA, because they're at number 2 here. I mean, everything that I talk to that is connected in LA tell me they think it's going to be Quentin Byfield. I think you kind of disagree with that, but give me your thoughts on that decision between Byfield and Stützle.
Well, it's a huge decision, no doubt. And so when it comes to Stützle, here's the guy that you have to think about that played with men, played on the left wing. Then he came back a little bit closer to his peer group at the World Juniors, EJ, and he was able to play center. And so the idea there is if you project him as a center, I think that he now fits into that number 2 spot. But if you see him only as a winger, there's a little bit less value traditionally in wingers as opposed to center. And so at that point, you might be looking at Quinton Byfield. The other thing you have to consider is maybe that versatility for Stützle is something that plays well because they've drafted centers with 3 of their first-round picks going back the last couple of years. And so that versatility may edge him forward. The way I look at these 2 players is this. Stützle is a guy who, to me, is a little bit more polished. I talked to one of his teammates, Mark Caddick, last week, and he said, this guy's work ethic is insane. I mean, he's first at the rink. He's last to leave, skills, skating, off ice, so on and so forth. He's got a real want to go and do it. And he's kind of like a polite guy. You know, he always wants to defer to the older players. He only had 7 goals. Hey, I better pass it. I'm the younger guy on this team. Now, when I look at Quinton Byfield, the thing that excites me about this guy, 6'4", 215, play the middle of the ice, skates like the wind, but there's still huge growth potential with this player. Remember, he's 10 months younger than Alexis Lafreniere. And so when I look at Byfield, 215, no way. He's going to play at 225, 230. And if he gets even taller, look out, this guy's going to be a monster down the middle of the ice. So when looking at the 2, I look at Stützle as being a more polished guy who's probably closer to getting there. Byfield with huge growth potential who might need 2 years before he actually gets there.
Now let's go to the blue line for a second, because last time you and I saw each other, I believe it was January.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it was in Michigan at the BioSteel All-American game. Jake Sanderson was the MVP of that showcase. There were over 200 scouts in attendance. He was lights out. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of hitting involved. This was a situation in which he was meant to shine. But now you have Jamie Drysdale behind him. How did Sanderson make his way into your top 5?
Well, when it comes to Sanderson, you have to look back to the start of the year. And I think everyone was pretty clear that son of an NHLer, good skater, able to defend with some physicality, some good stick positioning, pretty nasty in the corners and at the net front. But as the year went on, Lauren, his game started to evolve. And I think we really saw probably his best performance of the year that game that night. He was absolutely dominant, stepping up into neutral ice, breaking up plays, transitioning back the other way. And as the year continued past that point, he started to show the offensive side of things, which everyone knew Jamie Drysdale already had in his bag of tricks. But now you're looking at more traditional defensemen when it comes to net front, corner, battles, still has that great skating ability, but now he started to add the offense to his game, and people are saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. That gap that was Drysdale and Sanderson has shrunk immensely. And in fact, I now have Sanderson slightly ahead of Drysdale, not by much, but it's that offensive side that evolved throughout the course of the year. For me, that's put him in that top spot.
All right, we're talking about defensemen. Let's talk about the Red Wings because they are at 4. In other years, teams have dropped. Colorado 4, they took Makar. I think it was Colorado also ended up with Byram at 4, I believe it was. I think Detroit really has a need for defensemen. This is always a back and forth with the draft, right? Best player on the board or need. Give me your thoughts for Detroit at 4.
Yeah, really interesting setup there for Detroit, okay? Obviously upset about not being able to get Lafreniere, but into the 4 spot, I think they feel really comfortable looking at a guy like Cole Perfetti. It's not completely off the board. I've had him down my list a little bit, but the connections between Detroit and Perfetti are too numerous to mention. You think about Chris Osgood, Jimmy Devellano, very involved with Saginaw. And then you look at the Billett family that Cole Perfetti billets at, friends with all the old Detroit guys. You have the Red Wings, who all of their people could consistently get an opportunity to watch him play and get to know the person. And I think when you get to know the person, you're immediately impressed. This guy's got the pro mentality right off the hop. The philanthropic efforts, always at practice, busy schedule, able to handle it, the schooling, the whole deal. So you get a real sense for the character of this young man. But getting back to where Detroit is with their defense, Mo Seider, a little bit off the board for where they picked last year. Steve Yzerman quickly made his imprint. I think they took 4 or 5 others with all the picks that they had last year. So for me, I think Perfetti and Detroit is the perfect marriage, and that's why I think they go there.
So many unknown factors at play as we approach the second draft lottery, which will be taking place sometime in August. And of course, the draft itself, the man, the myth, the legend, Sam Cosentino. Thank you for joining us. Happy Canada Day. And we really hope to have you back on sooner rather than later because you are awesome.